Welcome to the H&N Digital Center for another edition of the Long Game Podcast. Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Jarinn Akana. If you tuned into part 1 last week, we spoke about his time growing up on Molokai, his mission in Chile, before going on to have a successful playing career at UH. In this portion of the conversation, we'll dive into his time, how he got involved with the NBA as both an assistant coach and eventually a powerful agent brokering hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracts. Enjoy. So from UH, was it right into the agent world or
No, so
to enter the realm of professional sports?
yeah, after I was done playing, I did a couple different things. I worked with Jim Leahy and did some of the broadcasts for University of Hawaii basketball with K5 at the time.
Did you have a set plan on what kind of avenue you wanted to go down?
I didn't, which nothing wrong with that. It just would help if you just advice to those youngsters who are growing up. The quicker you can figure things out of what you want to do, the easier it is. So I didn't really have a plan at the time. And I got my degree in communications with the thought of maybe getting into journalism and, do kind of what you do, Mark. And it was funny. I did some broadcasts with Jim Leahy, the road games, the following year, and it was great. I enjoyed it. And at the time, Merv Lopes was really good friends with Pete Newell. Okay. And Pete Newell was a basketball treasure. He coached the 1960 Olympic team. He coached the Cal team that won a national championship. So he won a gold medal, NCAA champion, won the NIT at Cal, and then coached in the NBA, was a GM in the NBA. But Pete Newell was, he did the big man camp. And so his philosophy was the big man is a big part of the game in basketball. But we never coached the big man. We always work on shooting, dribbling, and all these other things. Who's developing big guys? And his thought was always, growing up, being a big kid is difficult. And you're not normal, that's why. You're not like everyone else.
It's stand there in the post and
yeah,
put your hands up.
Well, and even in school, it's like the big kid. You're here and everyone else is walking like that. And so it's awkward. Yeah. Just socializing as a big person, it's difficult. That was his kind of thinking. And he's like, I got to help these big guys. If they're such a big part of the game, right, we got to help them, And, because people go, oh, you're so big, or, you're goofy. I mean, just those kind of things. And so the big people grow up with some kind of, just a disadvantage in a way. But big advantage in sports and in basketball especially. And so he took it on to help the big man. And he had a big man camp for many years. I mean, all the top number 1 picks in the NBA all went to Pete Newell's camp. And he was doing it here in Hawaii. Merv Lopes met Pete Newell one summer, and they created that relationship. And so eventually, quick story, just so I like to give context or, to different people and what the connection is. Merv Lopes used to work at Duke's back in the day when Don Ho was the attraction. He was the king of Hawaii. Tiny bubbles. And Merv was a high school counselor, coached at Kailua, Kalaheo, won state championships, in basketball. But in the summer, he was a counselor, so no more job. He go, Duke's, a doorman over there, legendary. And Pete Newell and Forty Anderson, Scotty Sterling, and there was one more guy. It's like 4 of them. They came to Duke's, and they wanted to get into and these guys are NBA, personnel guys, GM, scouts, and they wanted to get into Don Ho's show. So they walk up to the front door, and someone else over there, looks for Merv and goes, Merv, there's some NBA guys outside saying that they want to come in and see Don Ho tonight. Bruh, it's packed. No way they can get in. Merv goes, who? He goes, these NBA guys. Merv goes, let me go talk to them. So Merv walks outside. He's coaching at Kailua at the time. Walks outside. Pete Newell's there. Goes, hi, I'm Pete Newell. I'm with the NBA. We're here. Whatever they're doing, vacation, right? So Merv goes, you guys trying to get into, it's packed, right? There's no way you can get in. How many of you? 4 of them. It's okay. Let me see what I can do. But the only thing you got to promise me is that tomorrow morning, I have high school practice. You guys got to come to my practice and help me at practice tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. So they're like, dude, if we can get in, yeah. Pete Newell goes, done deal. You know who was with them? Red Rocha might have been with them.
Oh, no kidding.
And so Merv walks them in, puts 4 chairs right next to Don. They're sitting right on the side. Give me 4 chairs. Puts 4 chairs, lines them up. Those guys sit right next to Don Ho during the show. Had a great time. Next morning, Pete Newell and those other guys were at Merv's practice.
They all
showed up bright and early and helped Merv work. He goes, why do you need help, Merv? Wow, I'm trying to work on a zone. He goes, this is the zone you got to run. The 1-2-2 is different than a 2-3. You put your top guy, your tall guy, athletic. He can disrupt up front. Your 2, quick guys on the elbows, and then on the box, you put your 2 big guys. And he said, teams have a hard time because you covered the outside, especially if they don't have a big guy, you do good. So it helped them. And that relationship went on. And so Pete now and Merv were doing the big man camp in Hawaii. Shaq been here, Olajuwon. I mean, all the top big guys have come to the camp. So I was fortunate to go and help. And I was first just help with the towels, collect the towels, make sure they wash, get them ready, go to the airport, pick up the players, pick up the coaches, And so I got to meet all of these guys. I met a guy by the name of Kiki Vandeweghe.
Okay.
So Kiki was Pete's right-hand man in showing the moves for the big man. So what Pete would do is gather around the guys on the court. They would get to on the half court. He would tell Kiki, demonstrate, catch on the wing, face up, triple threat position. So Kiki would run out there, boom, catch the ball, face up. This is what we're doing. Inside pivot. Left foot stays down. You pivot on your left foot, face the basket. Always got to look at the basket. So Kiki was the demonstrator because he had worked with Pete the longest probably. I get to know Kiki. Going to the airport, picking him up every year.
How old are you this time?
I am out of college. I am
23, 24?
24, 25. Because I went on a mission, Mark.
Right.
Don't forget. I'm about 25, 26. And I get to know Kiki and his wife, Peggy. Kiki starts, hey, Jarinn, come help me in the station. So I went from picking him up, getting the water and the towels, to now I'm helping Kiki. So Pete would get him in a half court, show the move, like 3 in succession, and then go to your basket. So there's 8 coaches on 8 baskets, and 6 or 8 players to a basket, and they're just working on the moves.
Oh, nice.
So I'm with Kiki now, and Kiki's like, Jarinn, help kind of show the guys. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm doing that. So I went from doing that to, Jarinn, you got a station. You run it now. So I'm helping these guys doing these moves and stuff, and I'm a small guy, but I know how to coach it. And Kiki now becomes the player development coach at the Mavericks with Dallas. Mark Cuban buys the team. And so now Mark Cuban is hiring a bunch of coaches. So Dallas was the first team to start player development. And they were big on that because when you draft players, there's 3 ways to get better in the NBA. One is through free agency, right? Paying the money to get the big fish to come to play for your team. Through the draft, which you got to draft now, and you got to develop these guys so they become the player that you want them to be. And then through trades, trading assets, trading players to get what you want. And so player development was a big one. And Dallas went all in on that. Mark hired like a player development coach for every player almost. So we had like 14, 12 guys that came in. Kiki hired me as one of those guys in Dallas. So that's how I got to Dallas. I was there for 2 years. Then from Dallas, I went to Denver. In Denver, I was there for 6 years. Okay. And why? Because Kiki became the general manager.
Did Kiki Vandeweghe go to...
Kiki went to Denver as a GM, and crazy story. I get to Dallas, right? I'm there for 2 years. Kiki leaves.
You're still...
Don Nelson is the head coach. Nelly was all-time great. Like the way he sees the game, the way he coached it, creativity, second to none. Uh-huh. I'd never seen that type of basketball, prior to watching Nelly and kind of being there. Del Harris was his assistant. It was just great. So Kiki now becomes the GM. He leaves and he tells me, Jarinn, I want you to come. So I'm going, okay, all right. Donnie Nelson, Nelly's son, right, calls me up and goes, Jarinn, we want you to stay, bro. We like you here. We want you to stay. And so he goes, let me talk to Mark and kind of see. So Mark calls me. Cuban goes, Jarinn, let's meet. Let's talk. I said, okay, Mark, great. We go to a Dallas Cowboys game. Mark has the 50-yard line suite. His suite is right there. So Mark goes, Jarinn, why don't you drive to my house and then we'll jump in my car and we'll go to the game. We go to the Dallas Cowboys game. We park right in the VIP, right? Walk us in, walk up to his suite. It's just me and him. Food, drinks, anything you want. So I'm sitting there in a football game, NFL like 4 hours.
Great.
I'm sitting there with Mark Cuban, just the two of us. Spend 4 hours just talking about everything. Life, basketball. And he goes, Jarinn, I want you to stay. Whatever it takes, whatever Kiki's, going to give you, we'll do here. And he asked me, he goes, Jarinn, what do you want? What do you want to get, in your next step? I said, Mark, I want to be a coach. Like, I like being a player development coach. It's great. I traveled with the team. I sat right behind the bench and I watched everything. For me, it was a dream come true because we're playing Shaq, we're playing Kobe, we're playing Olajuwon, we're playing Karl Malone, John Stockton, Gary Payton.
In the league at the time?
Jordan is with the Wizards.
Okay.
Coming up with the Wizards. And so I'm like, wow, this is great. And so I end up now, I tell Mark, I want to be a coach, and the only thing in Dallas, it's tough because you got so many guys, there, and I can't, make that jump, and I think Kiki's going to help me. I'll be able to make a jump in coaching to kind of move on. And he was honest. He said, Jarinn, listen, the coaching side is going to be hard because we're already set. I can't do nothing now, but when something opens, I'm open to helping you, that way.
It's good he was upfront with you on that.
Yeah, very upfront. He sold me on why I should stay in Dallas. But he asked me what I wanted to do, and I was honest. I said, I'd like to kind of move up in a chain here. And he said, I can't do that, but in the future, I can. So that was kind of my answer. With Kiki, I would be able to make a move up. Grateful for Mark. The one thing about Mark Cuban, he takes care of the players and the coaches, like really, really well. He was the first one to have PlayStations in the locker. Every player had a PlayStation in his locker, a TV screen in their locker, the best towels, robes. I mean, Egyptian cotton, whatever that is, just the best.
Seemingly little things that make a huge difference, though.
No question.
Yeah.
And Mark was smart, recruiting the top free agents, trying to get those kind of guys to see that, hey, in fact, he would put those towels and robes in the visiting locker room. And Shaq, came out and said, dude, best towels I ever had. I took them and put them in my house. I had a Dallas Maverick towel in my house and a robe, which Mark's marketing genius worked. And so that's how, I was thankful. Mark Cuban, to this day, I'll text him. He'll hit me back. Like, just great all time. I end up making a decision to go to Denver.
Okay.
And I go to Denver. I was there for 6 years with Kiki. We went from bad team to the Western Conference Finals with George Karl. George Karl came in, great coach.
I'm trying to think of these teams. This is the
Carmelo Anthony,
Kenyon
Martin,
J.R. Smith,
Allen
Iverson,
Andre Miller,
Andre Iguodala.
Iguodala came, after I was gone. But those type of guys.
Fun teams.
Nene was a number 7 pick in a draft, and we took him as a 19-year-old.
Wow.
Never went to college. We traded in Denver. Sorry, we traded Antonio McDyess, who was an all-star, injured. Traded him to the New York Knicks to move up in the draft to draft Nene at number 7. Took their pick, and Nene was a really good player. Really great relationship with Nene. My wife is from Brazil. He was from Brazil. So he would be at our house eating, and, it was great. So Denver, I was there for 6 years. Played in a Western Conference final against the Lakers. Kobe, Pau Gasol,
almost
Lamar Odom.
Lakers.
Almost, but they're a little too much. They went on to win. So, but that was Denver. Then from Denver, I went to Milwaukee for 2 years. I was there with the Bucks. Man, Milwaukee was tough, man.
I was going to say.
Cold.
People
this
hear
local
Milwaukee
boy.
Now, this is way before Giannis, right?
Before Giannis. Yeah. Giannis came after. I went there with Larry Harris. It was Dale Harris's son. He was the GM at the time. The head coach was Larry Kryskowiak. Great guy. Good assistants. Had a great time there. Basketball-wise, just the weather was a little tough. And then there came a point where my kids were getting older. And like I said, my parents are always present. And
you were married already?
I am married, and I have my first 2 kids.
Okay.
My first 2 kids were born in Denver, Kaiki and Kawe. And they, so now we go to, man, every time we had to leave the place, we had to bundle them up like Eskimos. And my wife was like, man, putting the clothes on, taking them off, driving somewhere and coming back, just freezing. They were getting older. My oldest was in kindergarten. And I was like, we just got fired in Milwaukee, everyone. We brought a new coach, Scott Skiles. And then they had a new GM that came in. And so now I'm looking at him going, okay, what am I going to do? A good friend of mine who was one of the biggest agents in the NBA, Dan Fagan, I had known him from the big man camp, just kind of being around, players that I coached that he represented. And he goes, Jarinn, listen, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, I really don't want to be an agent, because agent and coaching and, it's kind of like the agents against the franchise, right? And the people in the NBA, they look at the agents and say, oh, that's the dark side. Those guys
don't want to deal with agents.
Don't want to deal with them.
Okay.
And so I go, nah, I don't want to do that.
And you yourself didn't have an agent at that time?
No.
Okay.
No agent.
All right.
And so he, basically, I'm looking at it now. Okay, I'm at a crossroads. I can either go stay in coaching, go find another place, and really get into it, or I can do something different. And a big part of it was because my parents were present, I wanted to be present with my kids and my family. And in the NBA, unfortunately, coaches get divorced and you don't spend time with your family. It's just hard.
How often are you on the road as an NBA coach?
Too much. Way too much.
I guess I should ask, what percentage of time are you at home during a calendar year?
Very little.
Okay.
10%?
Because even when you're not in the regular season,
you're still
everything else
going on. The draft during the summer league, it's nonstop. Everybody goes, man, when is your downtime? You get month of July, maybe, but that's summer league now. So going up to that, you're still in a season. The NBA ends in June, the finals, later part of June. If you make the playoffs, if you don't make the playoffs, you play to April 15th, whatever that date is. Half of April, and then May, June, July, Summer League. August, you're ramping up. September, preseason, training camp, and then you're back in the season. So it's nonstop. And, I'm looking at it, what am I going to do? Dan Fagan offers me a job. I said, nah, I really don't want. But then I'm thinking about it. He comes back and goes, Jarinn, you can make your own schedule. I'm flexible. You can do this when you want to. You can be with your family. And it allowed me the ability to fly to watch some of my clients' games, fly back early enough, and I can take my kids to school. Could never do that before. And so that's what pulled me into doing that. And he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I went and did it. And never regretted it. The guys that I started coaching with right now are head coaches in the NBA. Eric Spoelstra, Mike Malone, Brett Brown, Bickerstaff.
Uh-huh.
Bernie's son.
JB?
Yeah. All these guys we all did all the NBA camps together, and so I really, like I said, if I went all in and tried to do that, who knows what would have happened. But being at home with my family, being able to be around that's the sacrifice that I made, and it worked out.
So you moved back west.
I moved back to LA.
Okay.
Now work with Dan Fagan. Dan Fagan built the company up. We sold, so we were with a couple different agencies. He became my partner. We started off with Best. It was Best Entertainment and Sports Television. The guy out of Louisville, he's the one, billionaire. He formed a sports agency, a football practice, bought our basketball practice, put it all together, rolled it up, and sold to Lagardère, Arnaud Lagardère, who's a billionaire in France. And, he had the modeling agency, publishing company, and kind of put it all together with a sports and entertainment kind of agency. It was crazy. These guys roll up and buy these big agencies. And then Relativity Sports. Ryan Kavanaugh, who was doing movies, Relativity Media, they formed the Relativity Sports, Happy Walters, and ended up buying our practice. And so we ended up being with them. At the time, the media was big. They would do movies, put athletes in them, the marketing side of it. It was crazy. And so they bought us. From there, Relativity Sports got bought out by the billionaire out of Sacramento.
Jeez. All these
Ron
big money
Burkle.
guys.
Ron Burkle bought the sports side of Relativity, and then turned it into ISE. And then we ended up leaving. And the one thing is, we get into legal battles with all these moves and changes. And, Fagan was hardcore. I mean, he was one of the best in the business, but didn't have a whole lot of friends just because, he was hardcore. But that's what he was about. I learned a lot about him. And I told him, I said, Dan, you're so intense. He went up against the NBA twice. And one was for circumventing a salary cap with Chris Dudley. He initiated the sign and trade, like sign him with the team, but trade him to another team. So he'd get the deal done, but with the team he wants. And the NBA fought it. He went back and won those cases. So he was a game changer. And so we get into legal battles with these companies that would purchase us just to get out of it so we can sell it to another one. And he really smart, intelligent guy. And I learned a lot from him. And I told him one day, he gave me the best advice. I go, Dan, do I need to be hardcore? Do I need to be like you to just go in there and blow up a meeting? Or, he goes, Jarinn, no, you don't want to be me. You just be you. He says, you're the good cop. I'm the bad cop. And he said, we'll get a lot more done that way. And that was from then on, I go, yeah, I don't need to be like him. But eventually, I learned to do that, to be, do some of the things that he's done. I've been in big meetings, and I'm not talking about little NIL deals. We're talking about $100 million deals. And, sit in a meeting and like top players. Ricky Rubio was a client we represented. And because of my Spanish speaking, going on a mission, I was able to go talk to him straight and the family straight, where other agents that were trying to get him couldn't. They only speak English. They need a translator. That's one more step. You're behind, brother. So I was able to do that and spoke great relationship with Ricky, his family. And one of the toughest situations he was in, Juventud in Spain.
Oh, okay.
In Spain, in Barcelona, signed him to a little money, right? But had a big buyout. So he was 14 years old when they signed him. And he was a phenom, like growing up. 14 years old, he's playing in a top Spanish league, doing things that the veterans are doing. But his contract, he wanted to come to the NBA, number 5 draft pick. But teams were scared because they don't know if they could bring him over. His buyout was like 7.5 million euros. Euros is more than dollars. And so, we were able to navigate that. Minnesota drafted him, number 5. And we got him to play over, to come over and negotiate that transfer. He ended up for another year or two in Barcelona, though, because they bought out his contract. So the buyout came lower. He hit some incentives of winning the EuroLeague championship and a couple league championship. So they brought it down. And we're able to negotiate some sponsorship deals to help with the buyout so that he wouldn't have to eat all that money coming over to play in the NBA. So he ended up making more money coming than in marketing side than his contract. And so, just negotiating that, going through that whole process. I mean, sitting in Spain, talking to the club over there, dealing with Barcelona, these meetings are high-level meetings and learning how to negotiate and get through these situations. We negotiate every day what we're going to eat for lunch, who's going to be able to go into the bathroom first in your family.
What shirt are we going to wear?
What shirt are we going to wear? Like, negotiation happens every day in everything that we do. And so you have to learn how to negotiate to be able to get a deal done. And I've learned that if you get a deal done that's a win-win, it's the best. When you win and they lose, it ends up down the road not working out, because now they want to get you back. Mm-hmm. And if you lose, you want to get them back. So win-win is always the best. And I learned that from Dan Fagan, and my time as an agent, did deals with like some high-level players. DeMarcus Cousins was one of my biggest clients. And DeMarcus is a polarizing individual. They only see the part of him on the basketball court where he's intense, he's angry,
getting thrown out of games,
playing with passion, yelling at the coach, yelling at the ref.
Right.
But DeMarcus has a human side to him, the greatest human being, soft heart, and very mindful of other people. Grew up, under tough circumstances. Was approached by an adult at an early age, because he's always a big kid, who kind of treated him like he was an adult, and DeMarcus defended himself. And so always had that, kind of stigma following him. Great person. He had a switch that would kind of go off in the games, but I knew him as a person, great individual. I love him and his family, and just was able to spend some of the important parts of my life with him. Went into the negotiation, was tough with Sacramento. Vivek Ranadive, who's the owner there. And
so you had represented him out of college?
No,
okay.
I didn't get him out of college. But I got him later, before he signed the big contract. And crazy story. I got to mention this. I'm on Molokai, just relaxing on vacation. I'm hunting. I'm in the mountains now. We're looking at deer, getting ready to set up to shoot some deer for deer meat so we can eat. His mom is calling me, like blowing me up. I'm like, let's go. Finally, answer the call. She goes, Jarinn, I need you to meet with DeMarcus. He just got kicked out of the game in L.A. with the Clippers. He got into it with Chris Paul and just got thrown out of the game. And now, the owners at the time were like, DeMarcus is acting up, da-da-da-da. And so I went to meet with him. I left Molokai that day. Actually, that evening, I had a kind of like get together with my old classmates. I hadn't seen them in 20 years. So I met with them. I chartered a flight on Mokulele. It cost me like $1,100. Just me. I needed to get to Honolulu so I could catch my United flight to Sacramento to go meet with DeMarcus. I said, whatever. I cannot leave my classmates hanging. I'm going to pay $1,100 for a charter flight, just me, on the plane. Flew to Honolulu, caught my flight on United to Sacramento, went straight into the meeting with DeMarcus. Had a great meeting, and DeMarcus decided to go with me and Dan Fagan. And the rest was history. We ended. So coming back now, my family was still in Molokai. I fly back to Honolulu, no flights going to Molokai. My friend Wade Nakayama called me, goes, Jarinn, fly to Kapalua, catch a taxi down to Lahaina, jump on the ferry. The ferry leaves at 5 o'clock. You can make it. Aloha, get them. Go Kapalua flight, get back to Molokai to my family, and enjoyed it. DeMarcus, tough negotiations going into it for him. Because, of course, the team is like, hey, we cannot give him the full house. Like, he,
there's some wild card factors.
Wild card, too volatile.
Yeah.
Like, he got to come back in shape and, this and that. I go, guys, listen, DeMarcus is DeMarcus. He's a baller. You don't want to get rid of him, And the example of this, some teams in the NBA get it. Some don't. Some teams could have drafted DeMarcus Cousins, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and there's one more guy, top guy, that got taken later that ended up being a great player. But those are 5 guys. One team could have drafted those guys, but missed them because they picked someone else. But they had a really good player in DeMarcus. We just had to make sure that he would lock in and be able to do it. And so they did end up paying a max contract to DeMarcus and going through that with him. And, he was happy. At the end, he was kind of like, no, I want this. And I said, DeMarcus, you still need to prove that you can be that player and this and that. But, he ended up having a good career, had injury that kind of hurt him. But to me, one of the best talents ever. And that's saying a lot. He had all the moves. He's just a baller. Like, God touched him on his butt when he was born and go, you're a baller. Because he just did things that you couldn't coach, you couldn't teach. He just had a good mind for playing the game.
I would argue one of the most seismic transactions that we've seen that you were right behind was when he signed with the Warriors. That was insane. They're coming off of their back-to-back titles with Durant, and they have DeMarcus Cousins.
During that time, DeMarcus had tore his Achilles. I mean, just unfortunate. He got traded from Sacramento to New Orleans with Anthony Davis. And people don't understand. DeMarcus was averaging 25 points, like 13 rebounds.
When they're on the floor
AD,
together, they were fun to watch.
AD was averaging 24 points, 11 or 12 rebounds. Dude, that was 50 points a game and 26 rebounds a game. I mean, those guys were dominating. And they were playing Houston, who was the number 1 team in the West at the time. And they beat them that night. And it happened a freak play at the end of the game. Like, they won that game, had it won already. DeMarcus was in there. Shot a free throw, or someone shot a free throw. He went in just to rebound and got the rebound, dribbled out, and just, boom, his Achilles popped. And so we had a hard time in free agency. Took him a whole year just to rehab that thing. Gets into free agency, no teams bite. No teams want to take the risk on him. So we're stuck. We need to rehabilitate him and get him with a team who sees his value. So we ended up signing for the players exception, the mid-level exception. And he ends up going to the Warriors. And I told him, we've been talking about it, I said, this is the way. Go play with Steph. Go play with these guys. Win another championship. Right. KD, Klay, all these. And rehabilitate your image. And you don't need to play right away. I think he came midway through the season. He got healthy. They were willing to take him and rehab him and all that. Bob Myers, the GM, head coach, Steve Kerr. And he went there. The starting 5 was Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and DeMarcus Cousins. And the injuries killed them that year. They played Toronto.
Right. Yeah.
KD gets hurt. He's out. Achilles. DeMarcus re-injures after game 3. He tore his
quad.
Yeah, in a freak play.
Then
Klay Thompson in game 5 or 6.
Game 6 with the
game
ACL.
6 was ACL. He was cooking that game too.
And people forget.
And they were up.
Yeah, and it came down to Steph buzzer beater. It could.
If he made that, right? It could have won it, and Game 7 would have.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So unfortunate they didn't win it all. Kudos to Kawhi Leonard. He had a hell of a series and a hell of a season. And Toronto won it that year. But yeah, that was a great year. Golden State is one of the top franchises in the NBA, from top to bottom. I mean, the owner, Joe Lacob, is, very business oriented, wants to win, committed to winning. Bob Myers was one of the top executives. Bob Myers was an agent prior to becoming the GM. And Steve Kerr, underrated coach. People didn't really see him, but great player, great coach, and won a bunch of championships.
After spending the early part of your career working in the NBA on the coaching side, what attracted you? What excited you most about being on the agent side?
It allowed me to stay close to the game, and it allowed me to interact with the NBA side of things, which was what I was doing prior. So I knew what the NBA did. Being there for 10 years, I worked a little bit in the front office, did scouting, worked with Kiki there. So I knew some of the intricacies on draft night. I did the draft workouts when players would come in to do workouts in Dallas and Denver. And so I sat in the coaches' meetings where we're talking about strategy. We're talking about how to play the pick and roll against a certain, tandem, late game situations. I saw how coaches interacted about certain players, why this player was playing and this one wasn't. They would say, well, this player doesn't play no defense, so we can't depend on him. So now as an agent, I've been in those meetings, and I could help the client now navigate their way, manage their career on the court and off the court. And it just gave me a different view into how things work in the NBA. So I was able to help my players, give them the insight, allow them to develop and grow in certain areas, and be straight up with them. I can tell you right now, this coach doesn't like your defense. You got to get better at that. Mm-hmm. If not, we're gonna have to move teams, because it's not gonna happen here.
So you've had hard conversations with
no question. And the best conversation, communication is key. If you, and I give you an example. Jeff Bzdelik was a head coach in Denver, and really good coach, detail oriented, knew his coverages, knew everything. After a while in the locker room, just the communication wasn't there. And George Karl came in and replaced him. You ever see the FedEx commercial where they're sitting there in the conference table and the boss asked the question, so how do we get to this point? Oh, no. One of the employees goes, well, this is the problem we're running into. And then another guy goes, well, we just got our communications together. We got our trucks to, kind of maneuver, get into this position, da-da-da-da-da. And then the boss in the front is like, I got it, guys. We're going to communicate. We're going to maneuver. He said exactly what the guy said. And everybody's like, ooh, yes, that's why you're the boss. George Karl came in and said the same things, but in a different way and a different tone. Yeah. When George came, the team went 36-4 or 36-3 over those next 40 games. And so that's what it is. It's just that communication, being able to do it, the tone you use, how to kind of affect a kid, how to understand what they're going through at that time so you can push the right buttons. And that's how you're able to, be successful. Of course, sometimes you got to sugarcoat it a little, but at the same time, having those tough conversations is not easy, but they're needed in order to progress and keep moving forward in whatever you do.
How did you find that your upbringing, both, growing up in Honolulu and then growing up on Molokai, helped shape you and kind of your interpersonal skills working with these guys and handling these conversations?
No question. The different times in my life that I experienced different things, they all help for the end result or you dealing with certain situations. Me losing my mother helped me. Playing for Coach Wallace helped me. Having a dad that was a NCAA national championship boxer helped me. My dad always told me, we always pray, right, to the Lord to help us. Oh, please, Lord, help us with this, help us with that. The biggest way that the Lord blesses us is through bringing different people into our lives. That's a blessing. And so whenever people come into your lives, sometimes they bring problems, sometimes they bring good things. And, Kiki Vandeweghe pulling me in, playing, coaching with Nelly, coaching with Donnie, getting to know Mark Cuban, Kiki pulling me in, Dan Fagan helping me on the agent side. Just all of these different things. I've been blessed to be introduced to certain people in my life that have allowed me to be my best self, allow me to grow, and to accomplish some things that I never would have accomplished if I didn't meet these people. So that's the biggest thing for me, is having that experience of in the grand scheme of things, people make you look good and help you, and you screw yourself up sometimes when you don't do what you should do.
Yeah. One of the greatest things of NBA lore is the free agency period of DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
You were representing at the time.
Yeah.
What can you share about that time? Because actually, how about this? We see how NBA free agency plays out on the outside. You have that day in late June, early July, where we're looking at our Twitter feeds and seeing what kinds of transactions are going to pop out, and it's going fast and furious. Take us inside what NBA free agency looks like when it starts up and the frenzy behind it.
Nothing is perfect. I'll start by saying that the free agency period is flawed from a standpoint of, all these kids or players are talking, all these teams are jockeying for position, and there's a moratorium period of like 3 days before you can actually get the offer and get it done. It's like, okay, so how do you navigate those 3 days?
Very little conversations are happening during the season with the front office about contract.
Listen, you're talking to different people all the time, different teams, and because you have other players on the team, that you talk to and and coaches. I've coached coaches that I've coached with, so we're having conversations all the time, whether it's with different clients, whether it's about the team, whether it's about your family. So you're having all these conversations. Yeah, some things pop up during the conversations. Hey, we really like, so-and-so. Great. So conversations are going on, but not at the level where you're trying to. Now, as it gets closer, those conversations intensify. And teams now are jockeying for position towards free agency. And so you're having some conversations. We get to the point where DeAndre is playing great. He's a max level player. He's with the Clippers. we meet with Dallas, New York, the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Clippers. Those are the 4 teams it comes down to in free agency. With the Clippers, of course, being the team that he's with. I always tell these franchises, and everyone knows it, even though you have a player, you have to recruit him because everyone else is. Don't think that because he's with your team,
we got him.
You got him.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. And teams fall for that. Dude, we see him every day. We talk to him. He loves us. We love him. Don't be fooled now. Other teams want him. And so they're putting their best foot forward. Meet with the Clippers, have a good meeting. They're like, so can we resign? Can we resign? Well, we still got to meet with, other teams. We meet with the Knicks. Phil Jackson, the president of basketball operations. He's good now. Phil knows the game. Phil coached the game at a high level, played the game at a high level. So he knows. He's been through free agency a bunch of times. He's selling DeAndre on the Knicks. The market there, just the whole New York vibe, which is attractive. I mean, New York is New York. Dallas comes in, Cuban is Mark Cuban. Like he's trying to sign a big free agent. And, they present great presentation. On the basketball side of it, head coach Rick Carlisle. And then, the marketing side, Dallas is a big metropolitan area. They're putting their best foot forward. The Lakers come, they're trying to jump in there. But, he's with the Clippers, so it'd be kind of awkward to go from Clippers to the Lakers, like cross town.
Especially when they're still playing in the same arena at that time.
Right. So it comes down, DeAndre Jordan picks Dallas. Dallas has a good team. He's actually from Houston. So it's like close by. So he's actually kind of going home a little. The only closer would be going to Houston, maybe San Antonio. So Dallas for him is kind of home. His favorite NFL football team, Dallas Cowboys. So there's things there. The state tax is lower. So, you can figure it out how much money you would save going to Dallas or be able to keep. LA, the taxes are higher. So there's a bunch of different factors. We get down to he chooses Dallas. There's a day, 3 days or 4 days in between there of
before free agency officially
moratorium,
opens.
Correct.
Okay.
Where you can't, there's nothing you can do. And so DeAndre goes back home to Houston. And of course, people are talking, and it's big news that he's chose Dallas. But can't officially do anything and sign until midnight of the start of free agency. Long story short, everyone's still talking and communicating to him through whoever it is. He has a change of heart. He starts feeling a little, maybe I should go back. And Blake Griffin's one of his best friends.
3 days is a long time.
Long.
Decision like that.
3 days in eternity. Eternity. Especially people coming, visiting him, talking, and whatever, he has a change of heart. So now the Clippers go down to Houston. Free agency is going to hit at 12. They go down, the players are there, coaching staff.
This is at his house.
The GM, the owner, they're all there. They're there talking to him, and they finally end up getting him, thinking that he's gonna, stay. So they're there, and he can't go nowhere. They said they're locking him up in his house.
Right.
I mean, that was basically it. And so I go down there, like they wouldn't let me in the beginning, and I'm like, I gotta talk to DJ.
Right.
I said, DJ, these guys, like, we gotta talk. If it's this is what you want to do, we gotta talk about it. We get there. I get there. Finally, Doc Rivers answers the door. I said, Doc, I need to talk to DJ. That's it. So I get in there, talk to DJ. We're going to his little weight room because everyone else is in his house. So I'm in the weight room talking to DJ. DJ, listen, I'm just here. You got to tell me what you want to do. We got to figure this out. If you want to sign with the Clippers, then we got to talk about that. Because everything else we talked about was you going to Dallas. Sure enough, he goes, yeah, Jarinn, I want to go. And, for me, I got to do what's best for the client. That's the number one thing.
Right.
I can fight him and try and say, yeah, but you already committed. Heart to heart, DJ, what do you want to do? I need to know. I said, you committed to Dallas. They're, of course, waiting for you to sign. The Clippers are right here, sitting in your room.
This is awkward.
What do you want to do? Come on. And so he finally told me, he said, Jarinn, I want to do. I said, well, okay. Let me talk to them and figure out the specifics because we never really went through that with them. And he said, okay, Jarinn, yeah, if you can do that, yeah, I want to go back. I said, okay. So I walk in and tell Doc, hey, Doc, let's sit down and talk. I want to make sure before anything is done that we're on the same page. DJ has some things that he wants that we need to make sure are agreed upon. Everything with Dallas was agreed upon and set. And so he goes, okay. So Steve Ballmer, Doc Rivers, the GM, me, and they have their cap guy, because we got to figure out the cap and how that's numbers gonna work out. Yeah. We never went through that yet. And so we're there sitting, and I go, what are we? Oh, Jarinn, the full max contract, all the bells and whistles, everything. So okay, that's fine. Okay, I just need to make sure all the specifics of the deal so that way I can relay that to DJ and tell him that I'm comfortable with what these guys are offering. So I go back, DJ, yeah, they're bringing everything, whatever. You need a couple extra tickets or whatever,
all the incentive.
Everything is there. You don't need to worry. Your family will get taken care of, the games, whatever. Go back in. I go, okay, DJ's really ready to do that. And right there, Ballmer, I mean, we had some tough conversations in there, how it was handled, how everything was going. And I said, listen, I understand, but we got to be professional here. Steve Ballmer was great. He just bought the team, paid the most for an NBA franchise at the time. I think it was $2 billion or 2.2 or something like that. And so, during that meeting right there, drew up the paperwork, had it ready at 12 o'clock. I was there. DJ signed. And the rest is history, But it just shows the magnitude that contract was probably $100 and something $1 million contract. And so it was high stress, high octane. I mean, this was an important deal. And this is what teams, in the NBA do in order to get free agents. And so that experience with DeAndre taught me a lot. Got to know Steve Ballmer. In fact, when the Clippers came down and did their training camp here, I took them to golf at Wailea a couple times. Went and golfed with Doc at Wailea. But yeah, it was a crazy, and people don't understand the pressure you're under. Steve Ballmer, worth billions. Mark Cuban, worth billions. I mean, they could at any time have squashed me and just go, dude, we're going to ruin your life. I mean, these guys are, at that level. But kept it professional. I still, like I said, are in contact with those guys. And so just being able to have those kind of experiences with those kind of people, people don't believe me if I tell them. Even if I told them, they wouldn't believe me.
What percentage of deals are, I guess, agreed to in terms, before papers are signed, before NBA free agency officially begins?
So during free agency, there's a certain amount of time that you have to agree to a deal when free agency starts and then actually sign the deal. Say free agency is July 1st, is a start where you can start talking to players and agreeing upon a deal. Leading up to that time is chaos. Like anything else, on everyone's board, there's the top players. And you have to prioritize who's the top target, the second target, third, fourth, fifth, and go down the line. Because in your wish list, you have the guy that you want. There's 5 other teams that have the same money that you have that are going after that guy. So what is going to turn the tables to allow you to get the guy rather than the other teams? They all have the same money. Now, if you live in a state like Texas, Florida, or Tennessee, or Nevada, no NBA team in Nevada. But those geographic areas or those states, no state tax. So you're saving in $100 million deal, you're saving $20 million. Say it's 15%, 20% in certain places. That's what you're saving. So it's a lot of money. That's always a kicker. And then, of course, what kind of team you have. Can you win right away? What other players are you trying to sign in free agency? And so there's a whole lot that goes into it. So leading up to that, each team, the more they know before free agency and the more they can solidify who their roster is going to be, better the situation for them. Mm-hmm. And so they're all trying to talk and do deals before. That's why on the draft night or before free agency hits, all these deals are already coming out. So-and-so signed for $75 million with Miami. What do you mean? Like, we haven't even started free agency yet.
Right. It's already locked up.
Woj just dropping bombs all over the place, Yeah. And so it's truly a frenzy during free agency, prior to free agency. And so as these deals come off the board and the top players, because it goes top to bottom. Right. The top players come off the board. Now these teams who were trying to get them got to shift. And so once you find out, the sooner you can find out he's gone, you got to go for the second guy already. And so it's hard to go hard on number 1, hard on number 2, hard on number 3. It's like crazy. And so to answer your question about what percentage of the deals get done, 75 to 80% are already done before free agency hits. Why? Because they're trying to figure out who they need to go after next.
Right.
And the negotiating, the deal, like you keep putting more, and then the guys are like, we're out. It's like everything else. It's like an auction.
Right.
You know,
It's
what do you bid is? Too high for me, I'm out.
Right.
Whoever's there at the end. The thing is, you're dealing with a cap, so everybody kind of has that money. You're willing to go to the roof, but then once you think you can't get that guy, boom, I'm going to number 2 right away. Or number 3, or however it is. Because when the dominoes fall, each team is in a different position now. Like, you might have really had a good shot at number 1, but number 2, not really. Because your team doesn't fit him. And the player is there's a difference. Like, if it's a big man, right? Or a guard, like, the number 1 guy could be this, a number 2 guy could be a guard, like a big and a guard. I need a big. Like, I'm not going to go after number 2. I'm going to drop to number 5, who's another big guy,
right,
to go after that. So it's hard to explain, but there's a lot that goes into it during free agency to be able to be successful and get. Now, the teams that are heavily involved in free agency, those are the teams who have the cap space and are willing to, play in that game. For a team like the Utah Jazz, San Antonio Spurs,
right, smaller markets,
Oklahoma City, they're not in free agency. They're not going to attract those guys. Houston, Dallas, the Lakers, Miami, New York, Boston. Those are big city markets. Everyone wants to get to those markets because not only do you make money on your player contract, but the marketing side of it. There's more advantages there. Like, I've signed deals with Nike, Adidas, with certain players that if they get traded to a bigger market, the money jumps up exponentially. And so that's just preparing for the market change. And in free agency, that's how it kind of works.
Thinking back for when you first became an agent to now, it was 16 years? You said
yep.
You've been representing players. What's been the biggest change that you've noticed? How the environment has shifted?
I think the biggest thing is the NBA, the game kind of changed. David Stern, when he was a commissioner, his vision was making it a global game. And he did exactly that. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is exactly in the NBA. Foreign players in the NBA. There's a lot, and it's grown. And part of being an agent, I saw that growth. And when I was with the NBA, we did Basketball Without Borders, which we went to all the different countries and grew the game. Africa, China, Slovenia, Europe, and these international players are global stars now. And that's what David Stern saw. Yeah, we had stars in the US, but he took the NBA global. And now, Michael Jordan, all the top NBA players are global icons. Right. And the global stars that make it in the NBA are global icons. And that was his vision. And so he grew the game that way. The game of basketball, from a coaching standpoint and a strategic standpoint, went from the big man dominating the game to now the guards dominating the game. The game was played differently back then, 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And
10 years ago.
Now, even 10 years ago. But when I got into coaching, that was 26, 27 years ago. The game has changed internationally with the influence of the international players, and then just strategically. And the way they referee the game, the way the game is played now, totally different. The biggest change is the guard has been more involved. And it's not just a big man's game now. The three-point line changed it. Players like Curry and the players that are able to shoot the three. Dirk Nowitzki changed the game from the big man point of view. And so, like I said, the international influx, the global attraction, and the strategic part of the game has totally changed. So, to me, that was the biggest change, and the influence, the marketing side of it has changed. And Adam Silver, he's different than David Stern. But he's saw that change, that part of the change that David Stern was able to issue in. He kind of brought it through and moved it to a more entertaining, game, because they said it was getting boring and stagnant and too many fights. They wanted more free play and up and down, and that's where the game is. That's the biggest change.
Are you still actively representing clients?
No. Once I moved to Utah, I slowed down a lot, and I still keep tabs. I'll consult here and there with certain players and different teams. But now I'm a family guy. I mean, my kids are all, like I mentioned, I have them all playing sports and staying busy that way, and I enjoy
How did
doing
it feel
that part
to
of it.
come to that realization? Like, all right, I'm good. I've lived many lives, and
Well, coming from Molokai and doing all of that, it seems like ages. This last time I came down, I came not this past Sunday, the Sunday before. My son Kawe is playing in a Polynesian Bowl. Like I said, so I've been here the whole week. Went to the game. That's where I connected with you. Then on Sunday, Kawe went back home to Utah, and I went to Molokai. I spent a day yesterday, the whole day on Molokai. Went hunting, fishing, and dig back into the Aina, the roots. And then I came back today, and then I'll go back to Utah on Wednesday. But yeah, it's the change, the whole, just being able to look at where I started, where I'm at now. I'm 56 now. Still young, still got a lot in front of me. But I'm in a place, like I said, with my family, my kids playing, with my wife, that I'm just enjoying it, taking it in a day at a time, enjoying going to watching the sporting events. And, I've dabbled in NIL stuff. My nephews and just friends who have called me and said, Jarinn, can you help with this? So I've done millions now in NIL deals, just helping my nephews and friends that ask me, only because all my kids, my three boys, play football. I could get none of them to play basketball. How that happened, I don't know. To this day, I'm baffled. I think I pushed them too much. And I take them to basketball games, NBA games. They go to school. Their friends go, man, I just went to watch Golden State play, took pictures with DeMarcus. And they didn't understand. And the friends like, what? You do all that? They didn't want to play basketball. My nephews play football, so they all went and played football. So I'm kind of in the football world now, watching colleges. I took my kids, went to Alabama, visit Alabama. Kawe got offered at Alabama, got offered at Texas A&M, USC. I mean, he's had big offers all over.
How do these college pitches compare to NBA free agency pitches? I can imagine they've gotten more elaborate over the years.
Yes, they have, but they're still behind. I mean, the NBA, NFL, we're talking millions of dollars, and these guys are plugged in. In college, to me, it seems like they're still kind of fighting, the NIL, and the ones who are all in, not fighting it, they're moving ahead. The ones who are kind of like, well, we can't do this, we can't do that, you're left behind. that's how I kind of see the pitches. And going into a meeting with a NBA executive and a college, football guy, they still got a long ways to go, the college guys. It's a different world. And so they're still trying to figure it out,
I was going to say, these college guys, they must think twice when they're talking with your kids or your nephews or nieces. It's like, okay, who's on the other side here? Okay, better be careful about how we handle this negotiation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just the experience helps me in going to these meetings and talking. And, I'm a little more mellow, give them the benefit of the doubt with the college guys. But, I see the game, like I said, it'll continue to change until they have that kind of structure where both voices are able to talk and sit down and agree upon things. So
I don't mean to put you on the spot here. You can pass on this question. NBA executive that you did not look forward meeting with each time when you're representing clients.
I mean, not many.
Generally got along
with, not that I got along with them, but it was the job.
Yeah.
And the relationships you have allow you to make deals, and it's just natural. The more deals you make, they're going to be with the guys that you know and you feel comfortable with. That's just life. And so there were guys that I got along with that did deals, guys that you really didn't get along with and never did many deals. It was more business transaction, and
that's that.
Yeah, good. We'll move on. Thanks.
From a successful career, what's a piece of advice that you've picked up along the way that you continue to share with those coming up in the game?
I learned if you let me restart. You need to understand, you need to read the room. You need to know what situation you are in. You need to know what the person across you, how he thinks and how he feels for the situation that you're dealing with, and just generally as a whole, what makes that person tick. And so when you get into a negotiation, you have to be aware of all of that. Because if you're not, and you just are going straight at what you want from the deal, you're not going to get anywhere. Because there's something that he wants from the deal or needs from the deal in order to make his side happy. And when you're negotiating, you got to get all that out so you know what they want. They're going to come and tell you. They might not give you all their cards, but they're going to give you enough where you can understand, okay, this is what they need. This is what I'm going to have to give up, and he's going to have to give up in order to make the deal work. And the ones that end up working usually do that. And for me, I've learned. I've won some and I've lost some. And the ones that I've lost was because I wanted too much. And I could have and I should have given a little, gave my position up a little. But when you hold your position, sometimes it helps you for the next one, And so you got to know when to make that move and when not to. It might not make sense, but like I said, you got to understand the person you're dealing with. You got to read the room. Sometimes you have to understand the bigger picture in order to make the decision now. It might not come at you right away, but down the road it will. And so I always, in my mind, I'm thinking about that, trying to incorporate that. So when we talk and you can reach a deal or you cannot, depending on splitting hairs at the end. And I always am, aware. If we generally get to a thing, but say we're 50,000 apart. Mark, the deal, we can make it happen if we take that out of the equation. And then when we start splitting hairs, okay, when are we going to do this? When is that going to be triggered? When is it? And those are all parts of the deal that you have to consummate in order to make it a win-win situation. The more you can make it a win-win, the better off it is for you and the future of the deal.
Goes back to what you said, right? The best negotiation is a win-win.
It's a win-win.
There's no hard feelings.
No hard feelings, and both sides are happy. And your relationship is good, and you can make another deal down the line.
Jarinn Akana, it's been a pleasure. I feel like you are the sports executive emeritus for Hawaii. Like, Hawaii business people, I'm guessing, will reach out to you to get your thoughts on a deal, a transaction, to pick your brain on advice, any sort of insights.
You know, one thing I do want to say, Mark, the University of Hawaii has been good to me. Allow me to grow from a boy to a man. My education, just being able to play, the fans, the recognition. I mean, I still walk the street and people go, "Oh, Akana, play basketball." Just great. You know, I mean, that was years ago. I had darker hair back then. But, you know, anything I can do to help University of Hawaii. A big part of, I think, my story and the story of a lot of successful athletes, business people from the state of Hawaii that have moved away and experienced the mainland, so to call it. I've learned a lot. And so I want to give back. I want to help the state of Hawaii and help kids who were in my situation have the opportunity to be in the NBA. Yeah, I didn't play, but I was able to build something, a career in the NBA, coaching and then representing players. To me, we can have double the amount of successful athletes and executives from the state of Hawaii on the mainland. We can definitely do that. I think we can raise the level of, the youth, giving them opportunities. The biggest thing is exposure. A lot of the local kids, not many of them can go to the mainland and go to a camp or be seen. Now more and more colleges are coming. And so we got to bring these events here. We got to do stuff that will help our kids get scholarships. I got a scholarship. Parents didn't have to pay for anything. You know how many kids are talented enough but never get the opportunity? And it starts in our communities. The basketball courts. We got to make sure that they're able to go to those courts and play and learn the game and enjoy the game. There got to be baseball parks for the kids to go to where they can play the game, enjoy the game, and gain confidence. There's got to be gyms or rec centers that they can go to. And I know we have these things, but to me, there should be a push from the leaders to go out into these communities. Make sure that the kids have that sacred ground that they can go to play. That we can help coaches, people in the community who put time into coaching these kids, have coaching clinics, have things to help them get better so that they can invest in our kids. These guys are putting in time. And the more time they put in, it takes away from their family. And so, just doing these certain things that can help elevate. And I'm telling you, there's more athletes there that don't make it than the ones that do. But we can, just by sheer numbers, if we improve those areas, do the big picture things to help the youth, there's a lot more Shane Victorinos and Max Holloways and all the top athletes. I know I'm missing a lot of good athletes. Tua Tagovailoa, Marcus Mariota, like all the big names that we have. We can times that by 2 because giving the kids the exposure. All these guys who've made it, someone had to pull them up. Someone had to give them an opportunity. And that's what we got to do. So if we can give these kids an opportunity to get a scholarship, to be exposed, to see that professional levels, bring some of these, like we had the Pro Bowl. We had these things. Dude, when I was in the 6th grade on Molokai, Jack Youngblood came to Molokai. They did a Pro Bowl here, and they sent these guys out to the islands. Man, I never forget that day. And so these are ways that we can continue to help build the youth. Make sure they have places that they can go to that are safe, that they can play the sport they love, and give them the opportunity to expose their talent, to gain confidence, get a scholarship so they can get a degree or do whatever they're going to do in life. And you know what? That's going to allow more kids to play the professional ranks and be, people that we're proud of from Hawaii. Man, all the top athletes or important people, Hawaii, we're proud of those guys, and we support them. There's a lot more, I think, kids that are out there if we can give them those opportunities. And I'd love to help in that.
Let me ask you this. From your time being around professional sports and seeing what you have seen, what is something from the culture of these professional leagues and working with these executives that I guess Hawaii people can take from that can kind of be infused?
I think first of all is the mentality. In Hawaii, we think a certain way. And I was one who had a train of thought growing up in Hawaii. When I went to the mainland and got into all this other stuff, I saw it a little in college when I was playing, and we traveled and played in different cities, and you just exposed to different things. The mentality is like there's something bigger out there. There's a lot more out there. And, I'm not saying that's the only way, but it gives you an opportunity to open your eyes. Going on a mission to South America at 19 years old for 2 years changed me. Why? Because I was exposed to something else. And the more experiences you have, you learn more. And that's the biggest thing. I wasn't going to be in an NBA meeting with NBA owners if I didn't do certain things. And so being exposed to that, going to Merv Lopes camps when I was a young kid, it taught me going from Molokai to Honolulu and be comfortable with that change. So when I went from Honolulu to the mainland, I already made that change. So I could adapt to it. And then going from there to the next level and the next level, it just prepares you. And so the NBA guys, you don't just go from here to the NBA, bro. It don't work like that. And so those guys too had to overcome. Dirk, I was with the Mavericks when Steve Nash was there. We went to the playoffs for the first time in a long time when Dirk and Steve were there. Michael Finley, they were the big three. And I was in the gym with Steve and Dirk and Finley. Those guys practice more than the other guys. And they're good for a reason. And so you have to put in the time. You have to work. No substitute for that. And at the end of the day, it's the fruits of your labors, the hard work that you put out. There's a good end result normally. Doesn't always happen, but it gives you a better chance and a better percentage to succeed at whatever level it is. And so I believe in Hawaii, we have the work ethic. We have the demeanor to be, especially in football. That's a sport that we excel in. In MMA, we kind of punchy over here. But those are the kind of things that allow you to succeed. That train of thought that you don't just are closed here in Hawaii with, you open it up when you experience something else. And so I think the exposure for the kids will allow them to get some of that. And it's hard. I want to come back and I'd love to live in Hawaii and it's just hard to make a living here. But to be able to do that and help the youngsters, understand that, preach that, so that they can at least have a different type of thought that, hey, there's a lot out there. Okay, there's good and bad, but you can get out there, you can achieve, you can be that type of person that this guy was. But you got to put in the time, you got to do it. There's some kind of structure you need to lay a foundation first before you can go and do that. So that's the biggest difference, is just a thought being from here and going there. It just gives you a whole different thinking mindset. And it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, you know? And the more you can experience, the better off you are.
Embrace the life experiences.
That's it.
And the lessons learned from it. Jarinn Akana, I really appreciate it. I could talk with you for hours. Okay.
Sorry I took so long.
Not at all. That was a blast. Thank you so much. That's another edition of the Long Game Podcast. You can always catch it on the H&N streaming app or wherever you get your pods. Aloha.